Warfare is the new Alex Garland movie that's distributed by A24, and it's also directed with a real-life Iraq War veteran, Ray Mendoza, who I believe was the stunt coordinator on Civil War, Alex Garland's movie. I liked this a lot better than Civil War. Alex Garland has this very unique visual style. He's this independent filmmaker with the kind of prowess of David Fincher, where he has a very cold, clinical, detached filmmaking style. I really like his movies. Annihilation, Ex Machina. What was the third one he did? Was Men his third movie? That movie was very strange. I didn't love it, but again, his movies all are very intriguing in a way that, you can't really look away from them. Even Devs, the show he did, was great. And I really think that's one of the best things he's done. But Warfare is very, very stripped down. I would say this movie and Men are probably the most simple of films he's done, and they're completely different movies. Warfare, though, worked for me. I could see how people would not like this movie, and I could also see how someone would love it. Me, I really enjoyed it. But I do get this sense of this movie is a bit of propaganda, or this movie's exploitation. It's got no music, it's 90 minutes long, except for the Eric Prydz Call On Me song, which plays in the first couple of minutes, kind of setting the mood. There are these soldiers who are in, their bunk or base, and they're just watching a music video, and they're all like bonding, they're all like having a good time, they're getting fired up. And then the movie just cuts to them doing patrol in the street, and there's no music through the rest of the movie, which is a really good choice, because I think it just gives an off and strange, almost corny vibe, but that's not the vibe you're going for if you play music or tense background music in an action war movie, especially because this is based on true events. They're not trying to dramatize it, even though there's scenes of people being shot and being injured. I think the music adds this extra kind of dramatic effect that might feel a bit artificial, which is why they chose not to do that. And it's smart. Like Civil War, for example, had pretty more prominent soundtrack, but I think they're very different movies, where Civil War is more of this hypothetical situation. Warfare is based on the Iraq War and on soldiers who experienced that. I want to just go into what I think people would not like about this movie and what to me was intriguing and appealing about it. It's a very one-sided movie where all we're doing is focusing on American soldiers who are basically in this house. They're taking cover. There are insurgents or there are enemies in a house across the street, and they're trying to basically just stay alive while a couple of their soldiers are injured. And it's not like there's anything incredibly dramatic here, aside from just these soldiers in a house, in this Iraqi family's house, trying to get two guys evacuated while they're facing gunfire and bombs and IEDs. And it's very stripped down and very simple, and I enjoyed it because of that. I didn't think this movie was boring. I think the first 25, 30 minutes is all pretty good setup where you're watching them kind of monitoring the situation across the street. They find this house. They're there. You get a lot of military dialogue. The smart thing, and I was even reading about this earlier, was that there isn't a lot of typical, artificial movie banter. I think there's even one scene where a character tries to do that. He tries to, strike up a conversation so what are we going to do when we get back home? Something along that lines, and they just kind of, make a joke about him. And, the rest of the movie isn't this typical Hollywood movie. It is just real people really talking. They're not having these silly side conversations. I mean, I'm sure in real life that always happens, but it's the fact that it's not trying to be this dramatic representation of war films that have been in a lot of Hollywood movies. It's just men in the element, there's action in the element, and it's all just happening. And there's no real drama or musical cues or any actors that have any particularly big moments. All these guys, I don't even think I knew any of their names or anything really about them. But in a movie for example, Fight or Flight, which I just reviewed, which just came out, that movie, it completely matters to have characters with personalities and backgrounds because it's all made up, it's all fictional, and you're kind of trying to buy into this world. With Warfare, it's based on a true story. And while you would want characters, and especially soldiers, fighting to have these identities, I think it works to really view this almost in a documentary way, where yes, they have names, but we're not really going into their backstories. We're really just focusing on the element and what they're doing and how it's affecting them. It's a war film that's very condensed and broken down to the element, and I think it's really good because of that. I think people might not like this because it might be seen as one-sided because it mostly focuses on American soldiers, but I think that's the point. The fact that the Iraqi family in this movie barely speaks, they barely have any lines, they're basically just kind of victims who are there to, yell at the soldiers, why are you in our house? You're causing all this violence. I do think, though, that if they had given those characters more screen time, I think it could be realistic to give them more of a, passionate voice. But I don't think this movie is about that. I think it is saying that, the war and violence that's committed is all terrible, because that's just a fact. And the movie might be presented in a way that is giving Americans more of a voice or talking more about the soldiers, but I think that's the point. It's just to show that there's loss on every side, and it's about American soldiers. So I think you can easily see this movie and think it's kind of propaganda. I saw that perspective, but I know just watching this what it's trying to do, which is just kind of recreate some very specific memory of soldiers in combat, and it's showing that to us. And in war and in combat, it's got to be one-sided. These men are in this house, they don't know what's out there. And there's some really cool technical stuff. I love the show of force when the plane comes down and kind of makes this loud noise so they can kind of have a distraction. There's a lot of secret Hollywood elements in here like that, and like the action and the gunfire, where it might not be a typical action movie, but it still kind of sneaks those elements in, and it's very entertaining because of that. Overall, I really liked Warfare. I thought it was better than Civil War. I think, Alex Garland keeps making movies that are very visually immersive, have great casts. Overall, I liked it, and I understand people who might not like it, but I really did think it was a well-crafted, very unique kind of war film. And I like movies like that are a bit different, but also a bit challenging and entertaining to watch. Also, the way it utilizes characters such as Charles Melton's character, who's kind of in the very first scene, but then he doesn't appear again till the end. That's another sneak Hollywood move, the setup and payoff. You know someone's there, then you're where did this guy go? Then they come back. And it almost is sneakily rewarding you while still being a very straightforward movie that isn't, offensive or gimmicky. So I liked it. Let me know what you guys think of Warfare. I can't wait to see what Alex Garland does next. It was a very solid movie.